Welcome in. It is fantastic to have you joining us for this deep dive.
Yeah, really glad to have you here.
Today we are setting out on a journey that looks at history through, well, a very different lens than you might be used to.
A much more human one, I'd say.
Exactly. Our mission today is to explore this really remarkable piece of recorded oral history. We're looking at a text titled The Ghost of the Lake of Shadows, which is an account provided to us by Owen Brennan. And right off the bat, I just want to clarify something for you about the nature of what we're unpacking today.
Right, because this is not your typical source material.
No, not at all. The text we have in front of us isn't, a dry, dusty textbook. It's not this sterile list of dates and coordinates and military maneuvers. Instead, it's a highly curated, deeply personal piece of Donegal family lineage.
Which is what makes it so incredible.
Yeah, it's a story passed down by hand and by heart. It actually started with Owen Brennan the Elder, who passed it to his son George, who then finally gave it to the author of our account, the current Owen Brennan.
It really is a masterclass in preservation. And for you, as someone who loves to gain knowledge quickly, but, doesn't want to lose the nuance of the human experience, this account shows us exactly how human beings process catastrophic, world-changing events.
Because it's so different from the official record.
Completely different. We often think of history as something constructed purely from official naval logs or government casualty counts. But when a tragedy is large enough, the paperwork simply cannot hold the weight of it.
It just fails to capture the reality on the ground.
Exactly.
Which sets up our goal for today perfectly. We're going to examine how immense historical tragedies are preserved through this really unique blend of hard military facts and unexplainable local folklore.
Right, we're looking for that intersection.
Yeah, we want to look at that exact moment where the official record stops and the memory of the people takes over. So let's start by setting the broader scene for you. The year is 1811.
And we are in the dead of winter.
Dead of winter. The world is completely engulfed in conflict. Napoleon Bonaparte is casting this massive looming shadow over all of Europe.
His grand army is just this terrifying, unprecedented threat at the time.
Unprecedented. And standing between that massive army and the Irish coast is one ultimate shield, and that's the Royal Navy.
The stakes during this specific window of the Napoleonic Wars, they really could not be higher. The British military is stretched incredibly thin, they are anxious, and they are deeply, deeply reliant on their naval superiority to keep the homeland secure.
Because an invasion was a very real possibility.
Oh, absolutely. The threat of French forces landing on Irish soil is a constant, suffocating fear for the establishment. To prevent that, the Royal Navy had to maintain an iron grip on the coastline, no matter the weather, no matter the cost.
And that brings us to the ship at the center of Owen Brennan's account, the HMS Saldanha. Right.
From what I understand, this wasn't just, a standard little patrol boat.
No, not at all.
This was a formidable 36-gun frigate, and it was anchored in a place called Lough Swilly. And for anyone listening who might not be familiar with the geography there, a lough is the Irish term for a lake or a deep-sea inlet.
And the local name for this specific inlet is just beautifully haunting.
It really is the Lake of Shadows.
The geography of the Lake of Shadows is totally vital to understanding this story. The waters there are exceptionally deep, and they're highly sheltered by the surrounding landscape.
Which makes it an ideal spot.
Exactly. It made it a perfect strategic anchorage for a massive wooden warship. So the Saldanha wasn't just resting there, she was acting as a vital sentinel. Her mission was grim and it was dangerous.
See, she's the front line. Very much so. She was tasked with patrolling the harsh North Atlantic, intercepting any French warships that dared approach, hunting down privateers who were preying on merchant vessels, and of course stopping any revolutionary forces from using the Irish coast as a backdoor.
So to command a ship with that kind of intense pressure on it, you really need a very specific kind of leader.
You need absolute discipline.
Right. And the text notes that the HMS Saldanha was commanded by Captain the Honorable William Pakenham, who was the son of the second Baron Longford.
A very prominent family.
Very. He's described as a highly regarded, disciplined officer of the elite, a man thoroughly grounded in rigid military reality.
Not a man prone to flights of fancy.
Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this, because the text mentions that right before they raised the anchor for this final patrol, Captain Pakenham experienced something completely out of character.
Yeah, it's a really striking moment.
What exactly was he dealing with?
Well, it's this profound contrast. You have a man who represents the absolute pinnacle of rational, rigid naval authority, and he succumbs to a profound sense of doom.
Just out of nowhere.
Seemingly. Before the ship even leaves the safety of the lock, This strictly disciplined, high-ranking officer confesses to having a dark premonition. He actually tells people he has a heavy, unshakable feeling that he will never see dry land again.
Wow.
Yeah. And if we analyze this premonition, it really speaks volumes about the immense psychological weight of naval warfare in 1811.
The isolation must have been incredible.
Unbearable. These men were operating in total isolation on the freezing North Atlantic. They faced a hostile military force, sure, but an even more hostile environment. The atmospheric tension must have just been immense.
Because the ocean is vast, and communication with the outside world is basically non-existent.
Right, and the pressure to defend the entire realm is squarely on your shoulders. So a premonition like that, recorded and remembered by the locals, it sets a terribly tense tone for everything that follows.
And unfortunately, that creeping dread turned out to be entirely justified, because on December 4th, 1811, the weather turned violently against them.
It wasn't just a bad storm.
No. The family history describes the wind not just blowing, but screaming down the Lough. It turned the Lake of Shadows into a churning graveyard.
The storm was so extraordinarily violent.
As the storm reached its peak, this massive 36-gun warship, the Saldanha, was driven mercilessly into the rocks of Ballymacstocker Bay.
The ship was completely torn apart by the Atlantic.
The official naval logs, the military bureaucracy, recorded 253 deaths. But among all those lost souls, the lore of the coast mentions a single survivor. How did that play out?
The story of that sole human survivor is just heartbreaking. According to the local memory, one single sailor managed to survive the initial destruction of the ship.
Unbelievable odds.
Truly, he claws his way through the freezing, violent surf, and he collapses onto the sand, more dead than alive. You can just imagine the state of this man's body.
Battered, exhausted.
And suffering from profound, life-threatening hypothermia from the winter Atlantic waters. A local man finds him there on the beach and is desperate to save the sailor's life. He wants to warm him up from the freezing cold.
Naturally.
So he offers the surviving sailor a bowl of undiluted poteen.
And for anyone listening who might not be familiar, Poteen, or Poteen as it's sometimes spelled, is traditional Irish moonshine. It is incredibly high-proof, fiery stuff, historically made from potatoes or malted barley.
Precisely. It is a very powerful local spirit. But the sudden introduction of this fiery alcohol to a body in such deep shock from the freezing ocean proves fatal.
Oh, God.
Yeah. The sailor dies instantly, right there on the beach. He becomes the final casualty of the wreck, leaving no one left alive to tell the tale of what happened on the Saldanha.
That is such a tragic irony.
What's fascinating here is how local interventions become permanently etched into the memory of a foreign tragedy.
What do you mean by that?
Well, this local man was trying to do a profoundly human thing. He was offering warmth and comfort to a dying stranger. But because it ends in this ironic tragedy, the story embeds itself deeply into the regional consciousness.
The military just writes down a number.
Exactly. The official naval record will just list that sailor as lost at sea. But the local folklore preserves the exact mechanics of his death. It shows how the community on the shore was inextricably linked to the disaster happening in the water.
They were part of it. We've seen how the storm physically shattered the ship on the rocks and how the tragedy touched the beach. But Owen Brennan's account shows us how that shockwave traveled much further inland, miles away from the water.
This is where the story shifts from the physical reality of the wreck to something else entirely.
Yeah. The text shifts our focus to the isolated Bame hillside near the Brennan family farm in Meenaward, Inishowen. We are at the ancestral home of Unity Fullerton.
And there's a fun historical connection there, too.
Right. As a quick historical tie-in mentioned in the text, Unity Fullerton later emigrated and actually became the ancestor of the American statesman Tip O'Neill.
It is a great detail. It really grounds the oral history in the tangible global lineage of this family. We are talking about real people, real homesteads, and verifiable bloodlines.
So, picture the scene. The neighbors are gathered around a turf fire inside the Fullerton house. They're sitting together, listening to the roaring gale screaming outside. The tension in the room must have been palpable.
You can just imagine the smoke and the noise of the wind.
Here's where it gets really interesting. As they're sitting there, the door to the house suddenly opens. There is no knock, it just opens. And a visitor steps inside. What happens next?
This is where the story defies all the logic of the terrible storm raging outside. The text gives us a very specific picture. The visitor is a very small, very old woman.
Out in that weather.
Right. She is wrapped tightly in a shawl. She steps into the room, but she doesn't seek the warmth of the turf fire. and she doesn't acknowledge any of the frightened people gathered around it.
She just ignores them.
Completely. She walks to the center of the floor, stands there, and delivers an exact, chilling message. I'm going to quote the text directly here. She says, "The Saldanha is sunk. Many souls are lost."
The precision of that statement, delivered while the ship is actively being torn apart miles away, is deeply unsettling.
Then as quickly as she arrived, she simply turns around and walks back out into the screaming gale.
Just vanishes.
The neighbors were stunned. No one in the ream knew who she was. No one saw how she arrived on this isolated hillside in the middle of a historic storm. And no one saw where she went when she stepped back out into the dark. It's a manifestation of the deep, unseen connection between the sea and the community.
But the mysteries don't stop with the vanishing woman. Because while the sailor on the beach died and the old woman disappeared into the storm, there actually was one true witness to the wreck that survived.
This is perhaps the strangest part of all.
Months after the December storm, something seemingly impossible is discovered. A survivor is captured, but it isn't human.
No. It is a green tropical parrot.
A parrot?
A bird native to warm climates, surviving in the rugged hills of Donegal through the dead of an Irish winter.
It's completely absurd.
It is described as bedraggled, but very much alive. But the crucial detail, the secret that the bird carried, was around its neck. It wore a silver medallion, or a collar.
And what did it say?
Engraved on that silver collar was a single identification, Captain Pakenham of His Majesty's ship Saldanha.
A silver collar linking a tropical bird found in the inland hills directly to the doomed captain who had a premonition of his own death.
This raises an important question, doesn't it? How does a fragile tropical bird survive a storm of such magnitude?
Let alone the winter.
Right. A storm so violent that it crushed a massive British warship to splinters and killed roughly 300 hardened sailors. Yet this delicate creature not only survives the initial wreck, but makes its way inland, enduring the brutal freezing temperatures for months.
It defies explanation.
It synthesizes the sheer improbability of survival. It highlights a profound mystery without needing to dismantle or debunk it. Sometimes the facts left behind are stranger than any ghost story.
It leaves you shaking your head at the strange reality of it all. So what does this all mean? When we look at everything Owen Brennan has shared with us in The Ghost of the Lake of Shadows, we are looking at two very different versions of the world.
Two ways of recording history.
Exactly. We have the official version, the military logs, the casualty counts, the strategic mission of a 36-gun frigate. But then we have the human version, the memories of the Brennans and the Fullertons.
And what those memories show us is that history isn't just a ledger. History is kept alive through the stories that people refuse to let drown.
That's beautifully put.
The sea claimed the Saldanha. It claimed Captain Pakenham, and it claimed the sailor on the beach. But it couldn't claim the story. The narrative stayed in the hills. For you, as someone navigating a world filled with constant information, data points, and official narratives, this deep dive offers a vital takeaway.
Which is?
When you are dealing with history, the most memorable, enduring, and perhaps the most honest knowledge often comes from the bizarre human intersections at the very edges of the official record.
The things the paperwork leaves out.
Exactly. It's the premonitions, the well-meaning mistakes with the Poteen, the ghostly warnings by the turf fire, and the impossible survivors that tell us how an event actually felt to the people who were there. The military log tells you the ship sank. The story of the old woman tells you how the sinking shattered the world around it.
The official record gives us the facts, but the folklore gives us the feeling. Before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final lingering thought.
I love this part.
This is something for you to mull over. And it's based entirely on the hard facts provided in the text. We know for a fact that this tropical parrot wearing Captain Pakenham's silver collar was found alive.
We do.
We know it was found months after the catastrophic December wreck, and we know it was inland.
Right.
Think about the physical reality of that. If a fragile tropical bird could survive the freezing, brutal, unforgiving Donegal winter in the hills for months all on its own, what else might have washed ashore from the wreck of the Saldanha? What other relics or secrets or impossible things might have survived that night, simply vanishing into the landscape and escaping the official history books forever?